In this quick review, we want to talk about ways of organizing and summarizing quantitative data. Now, just to recall from a previous quick review, what exactly is quantitative data? These tend to be numerical measures on individuals, right? Things like your height, your age, how many siblings you have, things like that. So here'd be the example we're going to use for this quick review. All right. Suppose you have this data, and suppose this data is commute times of WCC students from their home to school. Okay, you can see someone has on the low end a 12-minute commute, all the way up to a 58-minute commute. And what we want to do is we want to take this data and we want to put it into a nice frequency distribution or frequency table. And this was covered in a previous quick review. And so what you'll notice here, what we have to do is we have to pick our classes. All right, are the ways we're going to group the data. And when you have quantitative data, the way you're going to pick your classes are groups or bins of value, so ranges of numbers of equal width. And so what you're going to want to do for this type of data, you're going to want to do it in ways that make sense. And so the way I look at this data here is the following. Okay. It looks like I have some numbers in the tens and teens, and then I have a bunch of numbers in the 20s, and then I have a bunch of numbers in the 30s, and then I have some numbers in the 40s, and then I have some numbers in the 50s. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pick up ranges of values of equal width to capture these. And so the way I'm going to do the tens is I'm going to have all the values from 10 to 19. And then look, what am I going to do here for the 20s? I'm going to say, well, to get all the values in the 20s, I'm going to go from 20 to 29. And then to get all the numbers in the 30s, any numbers between 30 and 39. Notice like when one class ends, 19, it immediately goes to the next class, 20, okay? And then for the 40s, so I'm going to go 40 to 49, and then 50 to 59. So the width or the range of each of these classes is the same. And then as soon as one class ends, the other one immediately picks up. Next, all you'll do for the frequency here is just count. I have 1, 2, 3 values in the tens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the 20s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here in the 30s. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 students who have a 40-minute commute. And then finally, I have 2 students who have commutes in the 50s. To count how many students there were total in this data set, there were 3, 6, 9, 14, 18. There were 20. Now remember how to do relative frequency. It's the individual frequencies divided by the total. So how many students had commute times between 10 and 19 minutes? 3 divided by 20. Well, that would be 0.15. 6 divided by 20 for the next one would be 0.30. 5 divided by 20 would be 0.25. 4 divided by 20 would be 0.20. And then finally, 2 divided by 20 would be 0.10. And then similarly, you can change these all to percentages if you want. 15%, 30%, 25%, 20%, and then finally 10%. And we see here that indeed it sums up to 100%. Or in this case, leaving it as decimals, it sums to 1. So look, here's what we did. We took a string here, an ordered array here of 20 different commute times. I think some of them, maybe this is the only one that overlaps, but 20 commute times. And we summarized it in a nice, neat table where we developed the classes. We then counted each data value that fell within those classes. And then we computed their relative frequency. All right, I want to show 2 visual ways to summarize this data. So once we have a frequency table here of quantitative data, the first way you can summarize it was what's called a histogram. And a histogram is a lot like a bar graph or a bar chart, except there's no spaces between classes. All right, so you're going to set this up as you did before. You're going to draw the first quadrant of the Cartesian plane. Along the horizontal axis, you're going to get your classes. So I'm actually going to start my scaling at 0 here for both the vertical and horizontal. So look at the way we did the classes. The first class started at 10. So I'm going to go out here to go to 10. Now watch what I do. The next class, what did the next class start with? 20. And then the next class started with 30s. And then we had stuff in the 40s. And then we had some commute times in the 50s. I am going to put the 60 here, even though there were no students who had more than a 58-minute commute. But that's where the next class would start. Up here, I'm going to do frequency. And that would be count. So it looks like the lowest would be 2 to 6, 6 being the highest. So I'll actually just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Okay, so here's how you develop a histogram. So how many students were in the 10s? 3s. So what you would do is you go up to the 3, and then you'd actually go right to where the other class starts, and you draw the bar up to it. Now I go into the 20s, the next one. Well, how many were there here? Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 6. So what you would do is you would literally build the next group off the previous one, and you would keep going. So there were 6 here. How many next are in the 30s? There were 5. So I would literally just build my bars off. And the reason there's no spaces is because as soon as one class ends, the next one begins. There were 4 in the 40s. And then finally, there were 2 in the 50s. And this is what a histogram of the data set would look like. No spaces, and then as soon as one class ends, the next one immediately picks up. All right, let's do another visual representation that might be a little advanced from what you're learning right now, but it's what's called a box plot, which is a 5-number summary of it. And what the box plot does is it looks at the minimum value in a data set, the first quartile, the second quartile, the third quartile, and the max value of a data set. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw a nice number line. Okay. And my data set's going to go from 12 to 58. So I'm going to go by 5s. So we'll start 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and 60. Okay. So the way this works, when I do the box plots myself, you're going to start with the second quartile, which is the median of the data set. Well, this might be a little advanced, and if you watch another quick review, I show you how to use your calculator to find these 5-number summaries. But in this case, the median would occur between the 10th and 11th values. So the value that occurs between 30 and 32 is 31. Then what I do to find the bottom quartile, quartile 1, is I look at the median of the bottom half of data. Well, there's 10 values, so that means the median is going to occur between the 5th and 6th observation. Well, what value occurs between 24 and 24? Still 24. And then to find quartile 3, I'm going to look at the top half of data. And it looks like the median is going to occur in the middle of this data set, which is right here between 41 and 43, which is 42. Now the minimum value in the data set is 12, and the max is 58. So a box plot would just look like this. I'm going to go to quartile 1, which is 24. I'm going to put a vertical line there. I'll denote that that's quartile 1. I'm going to go to quartile 3, which is 42, which is up here. I'm going to draw another vertical line. That's quartile 3. I'm going to connect them with a box. With inside the box, I'm going to put quartile 2, which is 31, kind of right around here, right above, right to the right of 30. And then the minimum value is 12 down here. And I'm going to actually draw a horizontal line out from the middle like this. I'm not going to connect it with another box. Then the max is 58, which is way out here. And that, I'm going to do the same thing by drawing a horizontal line out to that vertical line. So here's the min, and here's the max of the data set. Okay, I hope this quick review helped. And as always, if you need additional support, please reach out to your instructor.